Oh, thank you very much for having me.
I wanted to start out by asking you your assessment of the ongoing conflict between Iran and US Israel.
Well, first of all, it's a conflict that never should have happened, but was, I guess, inevitable that it would happen. Um, this is more than just a repetition of the 12-day war. This is an existential war of survival, and the stakes are as high as they can be. Um, there will only be one winner in this war. And as I look at things right now, um, Iran looks as though it's on the inside track to win this war. This means that the United States will be defeated, humiliated, and compelled to retreat from the Middle East. Israel will be left alone, and the Gulf Arab states will have to purge their soil of American military bases. Now, people can sit here and say that's pie in the sky, but I dare you to contradict me on anything I just said. If you're the emir of any of the Gulf Arab states and you have been promised the guarantee of American security, and you're watching your cities and your docks and your airports go up in flames, and there's nothing the United States can do to stop it, prove me wrong. If you're the emir of Bahrain, watching the Shia population rise up in the streets, threatening to overthrow you, prove me wrong. If you are the king of Saudi Arabia, looking at your eastern oil fields ablaze, prove me wrong. If you are the emir of Qatar, looking at your net liquid natural gas fields, unable to produce, prove me wrong. If you're an energy producer in the Middle East, unable to ship your energy out of the Strait of Hormuz, prove me wrong. If you're Israel, watching your cities get pummeled every day, every hour, prove me wrong. And look at Iran. They lost the Imam, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and all that did is strengthen them. There aren't people in the streets demanding the overthrow of the government. The Iranian people are rallying around their nation. And the Iranians have shown that they are more prepared for this war than anybody. Um, so prove me wrong. I know it's not a popular position to take, but it's a fact based position. It's based upon years of geopolitical analysis and military analysis. Um, unless something fundamentally changes in the way this war is being prosecuted, the United States and its allies will run out of ammunition in a few weeks' time. Iran will not run out of ammunition. Prove me wrong.
Um, can you tell us a little bit about the ammunition stock? There are reports about 3,000 to 8,000 missiles for Iran. Analysts are also saying that Iranian drones in particular, but also missiles, are cheaper to produce. They're quicker to produce as in comparison to US intercepting anti-ballistic missiles and radar systems, which are also costlier. So if you could give us a better sense of the ammunition stockpiles and the military strength of both sides.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that the Iranians have been preparing for this conflict for years. So we're not just talking about the need to produce. In fact, I don't think the Iranians are producing anything right now. I think that their production capabilities have been evacuated from the facilities and hidden away because they recognize the inevitability of the physical destruction of these facilities. But you can always pour new concrete. You can't replace the equipment. So if the equipment is safely hidden away, the United States and Israel will be bombing any empty facilities. But this means that Iran is not relying upon weapons that have yet to be produced. They've already produced them, and they've already stockpiled them, and they've already factored in attrition. Um, they have produced these, the Shahid series drones, which surprisingly are being very effective against targets everywhere. Um, they've produced missiles, advanced missiles. They have stockpiles of older missiles, and they have a strategy on how to employ these missiles to maximum benefit. The Iranians have already built this stuff, so it's a sunk cost. It's done. Um, but it didn't bankrupt them to do it, by the way. The United States, who is the premier supplier of interceptors, to give you an example, the United Arab Emirates apparently bought $2 billion worth of missile interceptors, and they're out. Done, finished, gone, zip. And who replaces them? There's no production line. right now functioning to replace them. The United States hasn't gone into war production mode. We've already strained the entire system supplying air defense systems to Ukraine. And now the Middle East has just shot through its load. And there's nothing left to replace it. This is reality. The United States itself has, stripped bare other theaters. I mean, when the president has to talk about we have plenty of ammunition all around the world, what he's saying is, so sad, too bad, South Korea and Japan, we're taking the missiles meant to defend you. Too bad, Taiwan, those missiles are gone too. And Europe, sorry, we're taking those missiles as well. So this is the reality. Iran fires a drone that costs $20,000 to produce, and we shoot it down with 3 interceptor missiles that cost $3 to $4 million each to produce. I'm not a genius. I'm just a simple Marine. I have trouble balancing my own checkbook at home, but that's a cost equation that isn't going to be sustainable. And this is the fact. But the most important thing to point out is that Iran has prepared for this war. It's already built all the weapons it's going to be using. The United States did not prepare for this war. In fact, the United States was warned off by both Israel and Saudi Arabia in January not to start this war unless you can finish it and guarantee an outcome. But we started the war nonetheless. It's a regime change war designed to bring down the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But we don't have sufficient resources. And as we saw, our dreams of what decapitation constitutes nothing, because the planners seem to believe that Iran functioned as a dictatorship of one. Ali Khamenei was it. And when you remove the supreme leader, the system goes away, which means they have never read the Constitution of Iran and they have no respect for Iran as a constitutional republic. Instead of collapsing, Iran immediately went the direction that the Constitution mandates. The president, the head of judiciary, and a jurist appointed by the Assembly of Experts formed an emergency committee that will operate as the supreme leader until which time the Assembly of Experts picks a new supreme jurist. So, and it looks like by Wednesday of this week, there will be a new supreme leader. And the country, the people have rallied around the republic. So not only has there been no decapitation, but the government is stronger now than ever before, which means that the major objective of bringing about the end of the Iranian regime is failed. In fact, it failed the very first missiles that hit Tehran. The first 6 missiles that hit killed Ali Khamenei, his 14-month-old granddaughter, and some other people. We tend to say that means we won this war. It means we lost this war because we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. We achieved the exact opposite.
If this situation is so revealing on just the third day, I wonder what led the US to attack on the first place. Was it total misunderstanding about the layered structure of Iranian society and administration and how it functions, assuming that a decapitation of one leader would lead to some kind of uprising and regime change, quote unquote? Or is it the hubris of US generals who don't who overestimate their strength, or is it intelligence failure? What is it that led to this attack if just on the third day everything is so revealing?
Well, I mean, what we know is that there is an unprecedented level of ignorance in the senior leadership of the United States about Iran, about what Iran is, who the Iranians are, what the Islamic Republic is, what the role Islam plays in Iranian society. When you have Jared Kushner, 50% of the negotiating team, meeting with the Iranian diaspora in the United States to create a committee to pick the next leader of Iran, while he's negotiating with the Iranians, by the way, about resolving the nuclear program, which sort of proved at the time that we weren't serious about negotiations, but that's a different issue. But the fact that we're turning to the diaspora for guidance on what the future of Iran will look like means we don't understand anything, because the diaspora is composed of, people who are either the descendants of or the actual people who fled Iran in late 1970s when the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah Pahlavi, was removed from power by the Islamic Revolution. Um, and these people know nothing of Iran. They have no support in Iran, and yet we're listening to them and believing them because we have fallen victim to our own delusional ignorance of Iran. Uh, we hate the Islamic Republic so much that we allow ourselves to ignore the fact that it is the single most effective functioning democracy in the Middle East. I'll say that one more time so the audience really understands what I'm saying. The single most effective functioning democracy in the Middle East is the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if you don't acknowledge that and recognize that, then, I've always said you can't solve a problem unless you first accurately define the problem. And if we're defining the problem of Iran as a dictatorship of one, to eliminate the supreme leader means the collapse of the regime, we don't have a solution to the problem because we've defined it inaccurately. So there is this ignorance. Now, that ignorance should be overcome by an intelligence community whose job it is to accurately inform leadership. But our intelligence community has become permanently crippled by the politicization of the intelligence process. We have seen this cancer infect the intelligence community back in the lead up to the Iraq War during the decade of the 90s as we manufactured a case for sustainment of economic sanctions against Iraq based upon weapons of mass destruction. And we failed to acknowledge the role played by the United Nations weapons inspectors, of whom I was a member, to achieve the disarmament of Iraq. Instead, we pretended that Iraq reconstituted a weapons capability and was posing a threat, and we went to war. The intelligence community, instead of telling their bosses what he or she needed to hear, the truth, they told them what they want to hear. That's not your job as an intelligence officer. And we have not, the intelligence community has been infected with this disease ever since, the disease of politicization. So now we have an American president who very much wants to go to war against Iran, looking for any justification and looking for support for the fundamentally flawed theories that that underpin this military campaign. And the intelligence community, instead of telling him the truth, lies to him. You saw what happened when Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, tried to tell the truth about Iran's nuclear program, testifying before Congress, speaking the truth. But when the president was confronted by this, he said, she's wrong. I get my information from somebody else. Who? That's your director of national intelligence. There's no one else, no one higher than her, which means he's getting his information from Israel. So there's the other problem. Israel is fundamentally corrupting the policy-making processes here in the United States. Lastly, you mentioned the generals. Here I'm going to, push back. American military men are professionals. You're talking to one. Okay? When I went to war, I kicked your ass because I was better than you. I was better than you because I was professional, because I was prepared, because I studied you. I studied me. I knew my weaknesses. I knew my strengths. I knew your weaknesses. And I would do everything I can to close with and destroy you through firepower and maneuver. And if I couldn't accomplish the mission, I was honest enough to tell my boss, I can't do that with the resources available. Because my job wasn't to make policy. My job was to execute a military plan of action. And the generals today have told this president that they cannot accomplish this mission the way he wants it done, on the time frame he wants and with the objectives that he wants. They have straight up said, we don't have the resources to do this. The director of the Joint Chiefs of Staff was fired because he insisted on this. As we speak, there's apparently a revolt of generals taking place in the Pentagon. And there may be mass resignations, according to some news resources, because these people are saying, we are trying to explain to you, Mr. President, that what you want to be accomplished, what your Secretary of War is up there, proselytizing as religious dogma, isn't going to happen. Just because Pete Hegseth says it so doesn't make it so. There is a harsh reality here. And we don't have the resources to accomplish what you want to accomplish in the time frame it needs to be accomplished. So I don't blame the military. The military has to obey lawful orders. Even if you tell the president we can't do this, if the president says do it, then you must do it unless it's unconstitutional. And while there is no legal framework under international law to carry out this war, because Congress has punted on its constitutional responsibilities when it comes to declaration of war. The president has assumed unilateral executive authority that the Supreme Court has not contradicted, and the generals must obey the lawful order they're given, even if they know by obeying it they're going to lose the war.
uh, Given this ignorance at the level of political class, and given the politicization of uh, the top brass, including intelligence community and so on, and the lack of filtering up, let's say, information coming out of generals and military to the political class. And I'll add, given Iran has officially stated that it is not willing to negotiate at this stage because it wants to avenge revenge. Uh, what could be a way out if you are within the US political class? Would you double down and go down this path? Because Pete Hegseth and General Dan Kane said that no, there are no boots on Iran at this stage, but all options are open. What do you make sense of what could be a way out for them, or the path that they would follow?
All options are open. I would remind both of those gentlemen that you know, Pete Hegseth just cracks me up, Secretary of War, although that's not a lawful term. He's a Secretary of Defense. Um, he in his embarrassing speech to 800 generals and admirals last October, I believe, in Quantico, Virginia, he said that the his ideal warrior was a captain in 1993 or a staff sergeant in 1993. And the reason why is that to get to be a captain in 1993, you enlisted you joined in the early 1980s, mid 1980s, and you went through training in a military that was designed to win wars. And the same thing with the staff sergeant, the E6. You were there as a troop supporter. Um, Pete Hegseth was describing me because I'm that person. That's my rank in the time frame that I was in. That's my experience base. Um,
Like
and so,
literally
as
you,
the person,
literally
pardon,
you.
literally me. Um, and I will remind Pete Hegseth that unlike I have won a war. He hasn't. He's lost two. He's about to lose a third one. Um, but so I am the epitome of the professional standard that Hegseth is setting out there. And so what I'm going to be, telling him is that you don't win wars by bluster and by words. You win it by being prepared. Um, Repeat your question because I got so caught up in 1993 that I forgot it. Just remind me of what your
Yeah, just
question was.
the way out
Oh, the
for
way out,
them.
an off ramp. The off ramp is always victory. I mean, you don't engage a war. The only military operation that actually plans for a retrograde is the raid. So we go in, we land, we do our thing, and we plan for withdrawing. But no military plan incorporates a plan for retreat because we just assume that we're going to succeed. If we're called upon to retreat, that means we have lost and we don't like to lose. Um, the way out here, though, isn't going to be through victory. We don't have the capacity. You want to deploy troops, boots on the ground. That was the point I was trying to make. That was my war. I was part of the people that planned an operation to send 700,000 people to the Middle East, including hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground to defeat Iraq in Desert Storm. You know, it took us many months to do this, of planning, deploying. We landed in airfields that were open, no interdiction, no problem. You could just land there, park your airplanes, get your troops off, assemble them, and move forward without any interference. Our ships landed in ports and were able to offload in a normal level so we could build up the force on the ground. How does Pete Hegseth envision getting American forces into Iran? What airfields are you going to land at, Pete? Because the last time I checked, every international airport in the region was closed down and under attack. All of the military airfields have been struck by the Iranians. Um, the operational environment is so unstable. You had to flee and leave all your airplanes. So where are you going to land, Pete? Where are your ships going to dock, Pete? Because the last time I checked, the ships in the ports that we would use are being hit and sunk. Pete Hegseth is a moron. And anybody advising him that we can transition boots on the ground to Iran is likewise a moron. We can't do it. Physically, we cannot do it. We lack the amphibious assault capability to do this. General Berger, former commandant of the Marine Corps, when he became the commandant, warned about this because when he became commandant, he reviewed his responsibilities as the commandant of the Marine Corps to have a Marine Corps capable of fulfilling the missions given to it by the National Command Authority. He read the National Security Defense Strategies and the Department of Defense directives, and he said, we can't do this because we are married to a legacy system of large amphibious assault ships where we put hundreds of Marines on it, have to sail it close to shores, and if they sink one of those ships, we're screwed. And yet, that's exactly what will have to happen here. We will have to forcefully seize an Iranian port. Then forcefully seize airports, and then seek to, offload hundreds of thousands of troops under fire. Now, this is something, we did, for instance, at D-Day in Normandy, but it took a long time to prepare. This is things we did in terms of, the island campaigns in the Pacific. But they were very bloody operations. And with the exception of Normandy, we never invaded a space as large as Iran. So let's say we land in Chabahar. Then what? You see, Pete, I'm the guy that actually helped plan that very operation, the op plan for Americans to put forces into Iran to respond to a Soviet invasion. So I've actually done this, Pete. And I'm telling you, it ain't going to work. You can't do it. So stop talking as if you can do it. You are going to war with what you have, and what you have is not enough. And you were told by your generals it won't be enough. Moreover, there are two clocks ticking away here. The first clock is availability of resources. As I said, they're running out of ammunition very fast. But there's another one too, because as we speak, Aramco facilities are ablaze. As we speak, Qatari gas terminals are under attack and Qatar has stopped shipping liquid natural gas. As we speak, the Strait of Hormuz is shut down. By the end of the week, Europe is going to be screaming. By the end of the month, Europe is going to be dead. By the middle of the month, Americans are going to be screaming. And this is a reality. This president will not be able to withstand the political pressures brought on him at home, domestically, and abroad, globally, about the consequences of this illegal war of aggression. And this is why it's so important to continuously point this out. Because people are like, well, who cares? Trump doesn't care. The world cares. Because you see, if Iran actually had a nuclear weapon to threaten international peace and security, the world would be able to tighten its belt and be willing to do what it takes to get rid of Iran. But this was a war of choice. It didn't need to be fought. Iran was already conceding everything necessary to ensure that they would never have a nuclear weapons breakout path. And yet we went to war. So, Pete Hegseth is sitting here talking the big talk. But even if we had 500,000 troops that we could ship to Iran, by the time we got them prepared to ship, we'll run out of ammunition and the world will be screaming to bring this war to an end. So the only way this ends is for